What's the difference between triggers and transference? I'm Jessica Go, I'm a trauma coach in childhood abuse, and it's really important for you to know the difference between the two, how you're acting these behaviors out, whether it's in therapy, in the workplace, in your friendships, or with your loved ones, and what to do to overcome it. So let's start with triggers. So triggers is that button that people press, and it regresses you back into the woundings of the inner child, where you get into this fight or flight mode and you feel anxious and you feel all sorts of emotions, whether it's annoyance, whether it's frustration, anger, and grief. You know, all these emotions that's being brought up to the surface, and that could be easily triggered by a visual, a word, a scent, a person, an experience, or an interaction. So to put it into perspective, in the past when I was working in corporate, I would get triggered by a certain type of men, and they would be arrogant, superior, condescending, controlling, and whenever I see those traits, I would get pissed off. I would have a tendency to want to pick a fight with them or argue with them. And the reason why I feel this way, it's because it brings me back to the conditioning of my past experiences with my father, who's the very first man who have came into my life. And he was a role model of what a man is. And so when I saw these traits in my dad, I just thought, what a dickhead. And so if I wasn't able to clear up that illusion and programming, then I would constantly get triggered by whoever's arrogant, controlling, superior, all these things, right? And it would keep triggering me until I healed the trigger. Healing the trigger from my subconscious mind, where the subconscious mind is telling me, this is what you need to be healed. This is what you need to be healed. This is what you need to be healed. Every time I get triggered, every time I get poked, every time someone rubs me the wrong way. And what can you do about it? Well, it's about seeing the gift in the trigger. What is this trigger showing you that needs to be healed? Well, whenever I notice someone being arrogant, you know what? I see that in me too. I've played out this trait of being arrogant in this aspect of my life in the past because I wanted to cover up the shame that I was holding on to. So it's not about pointing the finger at someone, it's about bringing back to yourself, because as soon as we look outward and blame, we suffer, we lose, and we give into the trigger. But as soon as we bring it back inward and say, you know what, I'm feeling triggered, I'm feeling pissed off that this person is being arrogant. However, this arrogance also reminds me of myself too. I have been arrogant in this way, this way, this way. And then you start to see things from a balanced perspective and from a place of equanimity, where there is good in the negative and there is somewhat a negative in the good, right? Because if we're constantly chasing for the good, that creates an addiction, right? But if we start to see the positive in the negative, that neutralizes the trigger. And now we're just gonna bring back to the transference part of things. So what is transference? This is commonly experienced in therapy or a friend, right? Or even a lover. So let's say you didn't have a mother who was emotionally available to you. You've experienced neglect and you felt abandoned by her, and this creates a lot of anxiety. And the wounded inner child feels like they need to be loved, and they need to be loved 24/7 by a mother. And so what we do is we transfer that experience onto, let's say, our therapist. And our therapist could be someone who's very senior, could be our mother's age, and they may show compassion and empathy and kindness and warmth, and we start to hook onto them and cling onto them for dear life, and we don't want to let them go, and we keep coming back for more sessions, more therapy sessions, because we're getting something out of it. And it's not to do with the healing, it's actually because you're being fed by the love that you've deeply desired that you didn't experience by your own mum. So that's one classic example of transference. Another example would be if you had a love-hate relationship with your opposite sex parent. So for example, with myself, it was with my father, right? So if I wasn't able to clear up the impacts of domestic violence and the abuse that I've witnessed and experienced, then I start to see my dad as the bad guy. And when we start to see someone as the bad guy, we start to get this killer instinct, this primitive behavior where we just want to destroy them. And when I saw my therapist and mentor, he was almost my dad's age, and he come across as very superior, patriarchal, and somewhat narcissistic. And I would bring on that love and hate relationship onto him because I was getting something out of it. My wounded inner child was loving him and idolizing him, and then hating him and wanting to destroy him for making me so small after being a loyal client. And once I was able to break free and end our professional relationship, I started to see the big picture of things. He was right. I was projecting my father woundings onto him. And that was the gift that I got out of all the things he said to me that brought my self-esteem down. But that was the one key thing that I got from him, was that I was projecting my father stuff onto him. So when we remove ourselves from the situation and just observe and be in the present moment and not be attached to the emotions, we can see that, you know what? He does remind me of my father. Yeah, I was projecting my father issues onto him. And this has showed up many times when my clients have worked with me. Not all of my clients, but there are some clients where they feel that I come across as their mother, controlling and dominating, or telling them what to do, and they would pull themselves back by not engaging with me, or they would say, I just don't want to see you, or whatever it is, right? And then when we work it through and just speaking in a adult manner, that, hey, you know, is it possible that you're projecting your experiences of your past onto me? Is it possible that I remind you of your mother? And as soon as you ask these sort of questions where it brings clarity into the present moment, they start to see the big picture, and they're like, oh my God, you know, Jess isn't a bitch after all. You know, this was just my woundings that I didn't clear up yet, that needs to be addressed in our session today. So awareness is key to breaking free from transference and start to change your patterns and way of thinking. This is just an old programming working in the background. This is not my actual normal thinking. And if you'd like to learn more, you're welcome to join me on my free webinar. Just click on the link below, and it will bring you to a different page where you get to learn how to overcome the impacts of childhood abuse in just 3 months. And if it calls you, then book a free clarity call with myself to see if trauma recovery is right for you and if we can actually get you to the other side of it. If you got so much from this video, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel and share a comment below. And I hope this serves you, my love. Take care. Namaste.